Night had descended, heavy and absolute. A magnificent full moon hung suspended in the inky canvas above. Its ethereal silver light spilled generously across the troubled land. She stood solitary, a warrior poised against the encroaching darkness. Her silhouette was a stark, defined line against the chaos unfolding behind her. The air itself felt brittle, cold with anticipation, but the promise of fire, fierce and consuming, was rapidly approaching. Her name, a mere whisper carried on the restless wind, was Hanul. She was the storm. Her Hanbok was a creation of pure gold. It shimmered with an inner light as if woven from captured sunbeams. Even in the moon's pale glow, the fabric radiated warmth. Luxurious silk, heavy and rich, flowed around her form with every subtle movement. Intricate, traditional patterns were painstakingly embroidered into the material. These designs were ancient symbols of her noble lineage, her heritage. Yet dark, ominous stains now marred the golden splendor. Blood, freshly spilt from a battle just fought, it spoke volumes of her desperate struggle. Her face remained a carefully constructed mask of serene calm. However, within the depths of her eyes, a tempest raged. They mirrored the cold luminescence of the moon overhead, and they reflected the nascent fires that began to claw at the horizon. Unwavering resolve tightened the line of her jaw. She had witnessed too much devastation this night. The conflict had been brutal, unforgiving, but the final act was yet to play out. It was far from over, not while she still drew breath. The sharp, acrid scent of smoke began to assail her nostrils. It was thick, choking and undeniably potent. It curled insidiously from beyond the ruined courtyard walls. The unmistakable odor of ancient wood surrendering to flame grew stronger with each passing moment. A soft crackle reached her ears, a prelude to the Inferno. Then another, sharper and more insistent, louder now. Fire was inexorably consuming something sacred, something irreplaceable. The heart of her ancestors, the grand temple. The temple was now fully ablaze. Towering flames, hungry and relentless, clawed at the star-dusted sky. They painted the darkness in hues of furious orange and violent red and a terrible vibrant yellow. Ancient consecrated timbers groaned under the assault. They audibly protested their fiery, agonizing demise. The structure itself was a masterpiece of traditional East Asian architecture. Gracefully curved tile roofs, intricately carved wooden pillars and beams. All of it was rapidly surrendering, turning into glowing embers and black ash. A monument of history was dying before her very eyes. An intense wave of heat washed over Hanul. It was a suffocating, palpable presence. It pressed against her exposed skin, threatening to steal her breath. Burning embers, like a swarm of angry, malevolent fireflies, danced wildly in the turbulent air. Some settled briefly on the scorched earth around her. Others dared to land upon the golden fabric of her Hanbok. The deafening roar of the Inferno filled the night. It was a dreadful symphony of utter destruction. Wood splintered with sharp cracks, heavy roof tiles shattered upon impact with the ground below. The fire provided a terrible, awe-inspiring illumination. It painted the entire temple courtyard in shades of blood crimson. Shadows writhed and contorted like tormented spirits. They stretched long and distorted from the remaining stone lanterns. They hastily retreated from the encroaching, ravenous flames. Hanul stood resolute within this hellish, flickering glow. Her golden attire seemed to absorb the firelight, then radiate it back with defiant intensity. Her form was a stark, unwavering beacon, unyielding. This hallowed place had once known profound peace. It had echoed with whispered prayers. It had sheltered generations of quiet devotion. Now only raw violence and destruction inhabited its sacred spaces. The once serene grounds were utterly violated, desecrated by the consuming fire and the bitter conflict that birthed it. The ancestral spirits of the temple, she imagined, must be weeping in sorrow. Their cherished home was now a monumental funeral pyre. But Hanul vowed she would not allow its memory, its honor, to fade into oblivion. In her strong right hand she gripped a sword. This was no ordinary blade forged of common steel. It pulsed with a cool, mesmerizing blue light. Ethereal, almost otherworldly in its steady luminescence. The soft, yet undeniably powerful glow seemed to push back against the encroaching red and orange of the Inferno. Mysterious runes, symbols of forgotten power, shimmered faintly along the length of its polished blade. Ancient, unspeakably potent. She held it with an accustomed ease, a natural extension of her own formidable will. Her left hand, equally steady, held a formidable axe. This weapon was a stark contrast to the elegant sword. It was savage, visibly fierce, impossible to ignore. Bright blue flames danced hungrily along its razor-sharp cutting edge. They licked at the surrounding air with an eager hiss. These flames did not consume the dark metal of the axe head. Instead, they appeared to be an intrinsic part of its very being. The axe radiated a wild, untamed energy, a perfect, brutal counterpoint to the sword's serene calm. It promised a swift and devastating reckoning. These were not weapons crafted by any mortal hands. They whispered silent tales of ancient, powerful magic, of solemn pacts forged under the silent witness of starlight. The sword, perhaps, was a sacred gift from benevolent spirits of the mountain. The axe, a deadly shard from a fallen celestial star. Together, these artifacts of power made her truly formidable, a warrior chosen, touched by the undeniable supernatural. She was prepared to face foes that lingered beyond the understanding of ordinary men. She was their champion, the brilliant azure glow emanating from her chosen armaments. It was a distinct beacon of defiance in the overwhelming chaos. Its cool light mirrored the serene, cold illumination of the distant, watchful moon. This glow spoke volumes of her inner spirit, unyielding, pure of purpose, resolute. Even as she stood surrounded by the raging Inferno, her sacred duty remained impeccably clear. These extraordinary weapons were her faithful tools, her silent, steadfast companions in the desperate, unfolding fight for honor. Hanul took a deliberate, measured step forward, directly into the oppressive, shimmering heat, towards the very heart of the raging, destructive blaze. Small flames, bold and curious, kissed the lacings of her sturdy leather boots. They licked eagerly upwards, tasting the air around her ankles, but she did not falter. She did not flinch. Her magnificent golden Hanbok swirled gracefully around her. Seemingly untouched, almost repelled by the hungry, grasping fire, she moved with the fluid grace of a seasoned court dancer, with the lethal focus of a stalking predator. The full moon watched from its celestial throne, a silent, unblinking silver eye in the vast, dark expanse of the night sky. It had witnessed the slow rise of empires. It had observed their inevitable, often tragic, fall. Tonight it bore solemn witness to her singular, unwavering courage. The ancient, traditional architecture of the surrounding palace grounds framed the dramatic scene. Darkened pagodas and pavilions stood as stark silhouettes. Their familiar forms were outlined sharply against the terrifying backdrop of the burning temple. This night, Hanul knew, would be etched into legend. Her senses were acutely alive, sharpened to a razor's edge. Every distinct crackle of the consuming fire, every subtle shift in the smoke-laden wind, she registered it all. She was utterly prepared for whatever challenge, whatever foe came next from the shadows. Her body was a perfectly coiled spring, taut with readiness, poised, waiting only for the signal to unleash her fury. The dark bloodstains adorning her golden dress were a grim testament to her incredible survival, to her indomitable strength. Her enemies would soon learn the depth of her resolve. This confrontation was far more than a mere fight. It was a definitive showdown, a desperate climactic battle for honor, for the preservation of memory, for the souls of the unjustly fallen. The glowing blue sword in her hand hummed with anticipation. The blue-flamed axe crackled with restless energy. Hanul stood firm, unshakable, a golden warrior silhouetted against a horrifying canvas of widespread destruction. She was the final line of defense. The fire that burned fiercely within her spirit perfectly matched the destructive fire that raged all around her.